All right, thank you everyone for being here at tonight's spinal workshop. I'm Dr. Sandy from All Star Family Chiropractic in St. Joe. We have this also recorded, but that doesn't mean that you have to sit there quiet. This is very interactive, and I got to thank you for your time, because when you give time in one place, it means you're sacrificing time somewhere else. So I am here to teach you tonight how to be selfish. Yeah, right? We need to be more selfish for ourselves. And so you'll hear me say this time and time again. I think I've said it on 3 out of the other 6 spinal workshops we have recorded, the airplane talk. I give this to moms and ladies everywhere. If you are getting ready to go on a flight and the assistants on the airplane, or they're not called stewardess anymore. Attendants, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. They talk about the procedures for takeoff, and should the cabin pressure drop and the mask fall, place the mask on who first?
Yourself.
Yourself first. But how many times are we actually taking care of ourselves first? And then the people next to us. So many times we see mamas and ladies take care of everyone else, themselves first, or everyone else first, and then themselves. So tonight, I want to discuss tips, policies, procedures that you need to make for yourself. Like it's a rule. Okay? So we're going to go over a bunch of different things, and I'm going to be asking for audience participation along the way, so you'll hear me repeat myself so our friends online can hear us too. But this isn't all about me or what I do. I also went online and looked up a couple other tricks and tips, and I want to hear what works for you as well. And if you bring something up, or you say, well, this is my problem, maybe someone in the audience can share what help works for them as well. Because what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for the next person. So the whole idea is just to listen, kind of like a flyby, and just take one thing away out of the 8 things I'm going to be sharing with you that you might be able to apply to your life tomorrow to help make you a better version of yourself. And when you are a better version of yourself, who benefits?
The others.
The others do. When we take better care of ourselves, we're actually making the world a better place. And then we're becoming role models for the people around us as well, especially our children, and they learn how to take care of themselves better as well. Okay? So here's one of the biggest things I want you to identify in yourself. Are you rewards driven or punishment driven? Right? So I'm going to go into the first bullet. So if we think negative thoughts, how many times do you think a negative thought pops in your head in a day? A lot of negative thoughts, whether they're about ourselves or about other people, but typically we are our own worst critics, right? In order to stop our negative thoughts, anyone got any good ideas how to do that? What are some negative thoughts you might think about yourself? Rhoda, go ahead.
I think the best antidote for avoiding negative thoughts is to think of other people's needs.
So for online, one of the best ways she finds to avoid negative thoughts is to think of other people's needs. Why not your own needs?
I think that probably results, it's a byproduct of thinking of others.
It can be, yes.
It can be.
I like it. Because helping is what I believe our purpose in life is, just to help others. And when we're living our purpose, we tend to be more positive people, right? So I absolutely love this. What are some negative thoughts you might have about yourself? I was thinking about my problem areas. I'm constantly giving myself grace.
Losing weight.
Losing weight. What about patience with your kids? That's where I'm kind of like, oh yeah, okay, slow down. They're only 4 and 5, right? Any other examples? What about in work? Yeah.
Do you think do you think we can look at ourselves and assess honestly what might be wrong, but in a positive way, so that we can do better?
Yes, I do believe that we can look at ourselves and assess what might be wrong so we can do better. But when we point out things, it can be dangerous because we're pointing out some of the negatives. But we should always be reassessing ourselves, because when are we ever done? We're never done. You have a heartbeat, means you have a purpose. We're never done. The work is always going to be there. But one of the things you brought up, can we do it ourselves, is here's one of the things, it's viewpoint and perspective, is because you will never see the world or yourself as you really are. You will only see yourself from where you are currently. Has your opinion of yourself ever changed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times it helps, which is actually going to be number 3, connection in time. It helps and pays to have the right people around you in your circle. So that when you are, having in those times of reflection, a lot of women call it venting, right? I just need to vent for a second and unload all those negative thoughts on people. Here's a distraction. It goes right with number 1 that we didn't quite finish yet about negative thoughts. When we have negative thoughts we think we need to share with people, it's actually a better idea to go write it in a piece of paper and then rip it up and throw it away. If you need to vent, it's going to be way better to take it to the trash can than it is to unload it on someone else and then them having to deal with your negative burdens as well. One of the things I was bringing up between positive thoughts and negative thoughts was that when we have negative thoughts, we can't just say, okay, don't think negative thoughts. We actually have to replace them with something else. Thoughts are like clouds. They're going to happen. You just got to let them pass on by. But having a list of positive thoughts is always going to be a great idea. So we just had someone, we do this kind of in the office, and I start every morning this way too, is I gas up. A gas card, I used to do them on 3x5 inch index cards, and we would put it into a trifold, so 2 folds to make it 3 columns. G stands for gratitudes, and we would have to list 5 to 7 things we are grateful for that day. Then A is the next column in the middle, stands for actions. 3 actions I'm going to accomplish that day, and then S for the last column. And we list 1 service to do that day or that week, usually a random act of kindness type deal, something that you have to give forward or pay forward so that's not being related back to you and you get some reward out of it. It's us giving kindly. So gassing up, always going over what we're grateful for, our actions, and our service. And I do that every morning. Now instead of a 3x5 card, I actually put it on a picture that I've taken in the week. So a lot of times with my kids or family members or things that we've done. And I just list G, A, and S and the things that go with them. And I share them with my accountability group, which is another group of chiropractors from around the nation. And so they get to see and hold me accountable, and I get to see their gas cards too. And so knowing that a bunch of other people are doing this with you, again, ties right into number 3 about having the connection and the time spent. And going into connection and time, number 4 is schedule, schedule, schedule. What should we be scheduling? Because right now we typically schedule, downtime. Right now we typically schedule work and all the kids' stuff. Or if you don't have kids, it's all their stuff, But the downtime, recognizing the things that fill us up. Like when COVID hit, I was mentally not okay for a second. Like I was fine, but I wasn't thinking the same thing because I'm very social, I'm very extrovert. So all the things that filled me up, like going to the movies, going out with friends, traveling, I couldn't do any of that anymore. So my energy was just completely drained. And we had to get more creative. I hired a coach then, someone to talk things out with me about what are other things I could do to build up my energy again and to fill me up. And so I did the same thing with the same coach a year later after after 2 months of coaching, and then I was good. And then some other stuff happened and I wanted to coach again. And I found my whole list was different. It was things like some of the things I'm going to share with you, like how to find that inner peace within you just through the actions that we go through. So going back, number 2 I wrote was preparing yourself first. So we already talked about the first part, putting yourself first as being the first part. But how are we supposed to be taking care of ourselves? What are the things that we need in health or to be healthy? This isn't anything new you guys know about. Sleep.
Proper nutrition.
Nutrition, diet, exercise, water. That downtime we were talking about. Scheduling that. We know what's healthy for us and what's not, but how many times do we find ourselves going for what's cheap, easy, and convenient? We didn't prepare for that moment. And it's hard. I get it, especially if you're someone with kids. But the more we prepare ourselves, the better version of ourselves we're going to be. It only starts with one decision at a time. So knowing you're going to be going right from work to picking up the kids to the soccer field, having snacks in the car that are nutritional healthy versus going through the drive-thru. Making sure you have water bottles next to you. Making sure you're making it to bed on time or getting adequate amount of sleep. You can't make sleep up. Like if you miss some sleep, it doesn't work that way. In fact, sleep is on a 48-hour cycle, typically. So if you partied Saturday night, guess what Monday feels like? A Monday. People think I'm going to bed early Sunday night, going to be ready for Monday. That's not how it worked. It was actually Saturday night that we had to be better version of ourselves for. So, diet, exercise, hygiene. Oh, exercise. Here's one of the things that stopped me as a newer mom. So when I had babies and toddlers, I didn't have the time to go work out. And so getting back into the swing of things, what I tell all my patients that like never work out anymore, 7 minutes, 3 times a week. That's all it takes to get back in the swing of things. Finding 7 minutes, 3 times a week. And eventually your body's going to want to crave more. And now we're back at the gym for hours at a time, and I'm finding the time because that's what my body wants and what my body needs in order to maintain and prepare myself for the physical job that I have. So preparing yourself, diet, exercise, hygiene. Going back to schedule, I'm all over the place. I'll go back and rehash these if you want for better notes, but schedule, downtime and breaks, vacations. If you are really good at vacations, I mean, there's what work allows and what's financially affordable and time-wise, but for our health-wise, several coaches that I've listened to, you need 2 full long 7 weeks, 7 days, so 2 7-day vacations a year, plus 4 long weekends. So typically like a week off spring break, another week off maybe Christmas break, and then 4 Friday, Saturday, Sunday type deal. 3 to 4 weekends in order just to kind of unplug and unwind and be a better version of yourself mentally. And that connection with family. Rhoda.
What about people who schedule a Sabbath week, so they have 1 day of rest a week?
So the question was, what about someone who schedules 1 day of rest, like those on Sabbath? I mean, that's amazing. And I would say they still need those same vacation
need more
standards.
than that.
You do, yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
but this would be a regular thing.
it is. And I wonder what that would all add up to, because that's like 52 days versus the 7 and 3 long. But what are you doing on a Sabbath? Because how much can you really get away 1 day a week? Or
I
mentally
find
unplug?
that if I don't plan it ahead of time,
Ah,
if I don't plan what I'm going to do, then it does nothing.
yep. If you don't plan it, you lose it.
But if I plan it, then I can focus.
So can you give us examples? What are some things you plan to do on your Sabbath?
Get up in the morning and I spend maybe 20 minutes myself focusing on whatever inspirational
Yeah.
reading that I have. And then I get ready to go to church. And so I go to church till maybe 11:30 or so. Then we come home and we have a wonderful meal. And a lot of times we'll invite someone to come and eat with us. And so by that time it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we might walk the dogs a little bit.
So I'm going to repeat you so everyone online can hear too. You wake up, you start with inspirational reading. You then take care of yourself. You then go to church, which is then feeding social and spiritual. And then you come home and you have a family meal, and you might have friends come along too. And then you get outside and walk the dogs or go for a walk yourself, and that's exercise. That's hitting a lot of those things on that day. So can you walk me through, if you don't plan it, what does it look like?
I feel like I'm at loose ends and I'm wondering what I can do, or I okay, this is boring. And I find other things that aren't as restful to do just to fill the time.
So let me see if I'm hearing you right, or if this is the same thing. If it's not planned, you pick up old habits that shouldn't have priority right then.
Exactly.
Isn't that the same? Like when we take vacations or staycations, we still find things around the house to get done, or instead of our break time, we feel like we wasted it instead of doing laundry and chores and things like that. So our break times are extremely important, you're right. And if we have to take it purposely and plan what we want, great examples. Yeah.
But mentally, you are giving yourself this entire day when you could just put everything down, and this is just for this, and it's a recreation of you. And you know that this is going to be the best vacation ever because you're cleared of all the things that were bothering you, anything else, and you have this.
That's very true. Because how many people would feel guilty if they did spend a whole day doing nothing and then their chores just built up for the next day, right? So you used a key word that I loved, and you said recreating yourself. And so that's one of my key words, is actually reinventing myself every day to make sure that it's not boring or at loose ends, and being creative. Feeding our creative mind is huge when it comes to recreating ourselves so that we can stay on task. Because how many of you, through the mundane task and the chores, tend to lose your creativity or put it on the back burner? That if you're scheduling those like mental health days rather than spending it in front of Netflix or anything, that's what I highly recommend you do. Maybe throw some little chores in there, but do something that sparks your creativity. Whether that's an art project or, I don't know, what else do you guys like to do for being creative? Crocheting.
I make art out of beach glass.
Art out of beach glass. So that even takes 2 time. That's like your exercise. You have to go walk on the beach and find that too. Next one. Here's one of the biggest things about, so number 5, I'm going to teach you this acronym that I use with the coaching group I'm with called TLC. It's called BOSS. Be your own boss. B stands for be observant. No, be aware. O is observant. S is slow down. And the second S is stop when necessary. And I'm using this for the term of, and the myth of multitasking. Multitasking is not fully possible. You might be balancing multiple plates and juggling a lot of things, but you can really only do one thing at a time. We start to lose focus if we're actually doing other stuff. And that's another idea, and there's the pros and cons of just creating a list. If we're creating lists of all the things we need to do, yeah, that might keep us focused, but it also takes, the achievement part of it. There's a lot of pros and cons. So I'm going back and forth on my words here. When we're stuck on the task, we sometimes miss what is important. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the list, otherwise we forget to do something important too. In the midst of doing your list, I am asking you to be a boss. To be aware, observe everything, slow down, and stop when necessary. Engage in the people around you, because guess what? There are no ordinary moments. Everything is being put in front of you for a reason. You just have to recognize it. Number 6 on my list was pray and meditate. I found this acronym, I heard it once. For pray, P is praise, R is repent, A is ask, Y is yield. It's praise, repent, ask, and yield. And so that went along with the sermon that I heard about learning how to pray. And so what I kind of view it as is praying is when I talk. You want to go kind of, here's a list, right? You go over your praises. Thank you, God, for all of this. What are my asks? What are the things I need forgiveness for? And then listen. And that's what I view meditation as. Pray is when I talk. Meditation is when I listen. And it doesn't have to be God or Jesus. It's just everything around us, recognizing that there is a higher purpose than ourselves, the people around us, so that we ground ourselves even to the earth, because everything is energy. The air, there's energy around us. We emit energies. And even in like breaking down every cell in our body and the atoms around it, or the atoms that make up the cells, At any given point in your body, there's approximately 300 atoms, so those are really tiny particles, right? The smallest particles you can break down, that were once in Jesus Christ. Isn't that cool? I mean, it doesn't just have to be Jesus Christ. It's basically anyone in history, because energy is always recycled and renewed. And we are all connected in that way. Another tool that I have and I use is called Brain Tap. We offer this here in the office. It is a headset that you listen to a recording, approximately 20 minutes of a hypnosis. And it is always positive forward thinking. So they have multiple programs on stress less, worry less, how to sleep better. It also uses light therapy, brain waves, and auricular therapy too, towards the ears. So it has lots of things that help us, again, take that time out to be grounded. We put you in a zero gravity chair in a more quieter room where you just take that time out and you don't even have to listen. The recording talks to your subconscious. And that's one of the things, like, we're in today's day and age, when we're constantly doing our list, we're stuck in our conscious, we're thinking. But you ever get to that point where you're like, you drove somewhere from here to there because you're so used to it and you don't remember how you got there? That's when your subconscious kind of took over and guided you because of habitual things going over and over again. And that's why we also need 8 hours of sleep. Typically, well, people are different. We actually need approximately 6 to 9 REM cycles, and a REM cycle takes approximately 90 minutes every night. Yeah, so that's REM stands for rapid eye movement. Our body has to go through a REM cycle in order to feel rested. So people that still get 6 to 9 hours of sleep but wake up still groggy, they're not going through REM cycles. And so the Brain Tap also helps with that too, and can put you through a REM cycle in actually just 20 minutes versus what your body would take in 90 minutes. So they have multiple programs. In fact, some of the best results that we've seen with Brain Tap are with the PTSD program, where, I mean, people that have come to me with PTSD that have tried like counseling before or anything like that, they're asked to kind of relive some of these horrors they've been through. Whereas the Brain Tap isn't, you don't have to do anything but show up. You don't even have to listen. You can take a nap during it. And it's going to start doing the positive. And that's just like what we talked about with number 1, about instead of thinking the negative things, we replace them with positive things. And that's how we start breaking our cycles and our habits. The last one I want to share with you is journaling. And so a lot of times people think of journaling as keeping a record of what happened throughout your day, throughout the activities. Well, that's one way. But I never found keeping a diary like that, anything much positive came out of it. So the 5-minute journal, because if you start thinking about journaling, I don't have time to journal. But if we did just 5 minutes one time a week, this is how I would want you set your timer on your phone for 1 minute. 5-minute journal. This is also coming from journal. Okay, also coming from the group called TLC that I coach with. The 5-minute journal, you set your timer, and in number 1, what did I just do with my paper? You're going to spend 1 minute listing the things you're grateful for. Number 2, you list out your dreams for another minute. In minute number 3, what makes you joyous? Number 4, the actions you're going to take for you, for yourself, you first. And number 5, soup. Soup stands for setting others up to prosper. That's just like in the gas card with the S. You think of actions for that 1 minute and you write them down, your intentions for how you're going to set someone else up to prosper. So hopefully I went over 8 things with you guys. Number 1, think positive thoughts over negative thoughts. Number 2, preparing yourself, diet, exercise, hygiene, sleep, water. Number 3, connection and time with the right people around you in your circle. Number 4, schedule, schedule, schedule. Your breaks, your vacations, and the one I think I forgot to mention was traditions. Number 5, boss. There's no such thing as multitasking. Slow down and be present in every moment. Number 6, pray and meditate. Number 7, the resource brain tap. And number 8, the 5-minute journal exercise. So hopefully there's something in here that you can choose to apply right away to help you ground, be a little bit more calm, because in today's day and age, we are running around like chickens with our heads cut off. And the last tool we're going to share tonight, while you are here, for the make and take oil, is because essential oils are known to actually vibe with our energy and actually change our DNA to allow us to express different feelings. So if we are running around like a chicken with our head cut off, or we have a headache, there's certain scents and smells that help us really ground and connect. Sometimes these scents or smells are actually connected to memories. But when you start to use something like a scent or smell on a regular basis, and then you're pushing the emotion you want with it, like how we called this calm mama, you are then setting the brainwaves subconsciously and consciously to create that. So in the midst of chaos, when we get to boss, I want you to pull out the oil we're making tonight and then apply it. You're going to want to apply it to your pressure points. And for online, the ingredients that we're using tonight will be fractionated coconut oil, wild orange, and clary sage. So thank you guys so much. We're going to break off into little groups where I have 2 sets of everything, and we'll be making our own roller bottles. Any questions?